So I mentioned in my last video, I was talking about trauma that occurred in my life, and the trauma that occurred as an adult. I was intimate with a guy for 11 years in Los Angeles, and he was HIV positive the entire time and didn't say nothing to me, and I found out 11 years later. But one of the things I wanted to mention is that most of everything that he told me and said about me behind my back was a lie. He was, well, let me just say this first. When I first met him, I started hanging out with him, and I said to myself, he doesn't seem very smart. And the reason I said that was because if I discussed current events or politics or whatnot, he was totally clueless. I did his resume for him, and he had some misspelled words in there, and I said, at your age, you should know how to spell these words. I didn't say that to him, but I said it to myself. And just culturally, he wasn't, we were definitely cut from different cloths. He was a hood guy, and that's no diss, but he was just like, he was street smart, but he wasn't book smart. So one example was, I took him, another example I should say, he invited me over for dinner, and we had dinner, and I said, let's go out for dessert. And so we get in his car, and he goes to the corner store, and I thought he was stopping for a beer or something. And he comes out with a brown bag, and then he starts driving back to his apartment. And I said, I thought we were going to go out for dessert. And he said, I got you a cupcake. And I just started busting up laughing in his face. And he was like, what's funny? And I said, when I said I wanted to go out for dessert, I was thinking like, you know, let's go get some gelato or go get a slice of cheesecake or something like that. I could just give you 100 examples. Another thing that I found out, excuse me, he was driving around Los Angeles with an expired driver's license. And I found out through one of his friends that he had a friend that worked at the DMV, Department of Motor Vehicles, on South La Brea, right there in Inglewood. And he was able to pass the driving part, but he wasn't able to pass the written part. So his friend passed him, and so from that point on, he's been driving around like for years with an expired driver's license. And I'm not trying to make fun of the guy, but I'm just saying. So fast forward a couple of months later, I met another guy, and he said, are you seeing anyone? And I told him, I said, I just met this guy. We'll call him Jay because I don't want to say his name. And I said, he's pretty cool and all, but he doesn't seem very smart. Long story short, this guy knew him, knew Jay, and he went back and told him what I said. So from that point on, as a form of retaliation, Jay was telling everybody that I wasn't very smart, which is not true. And he also talked about me using drugs, and that's definitely a lie. The only thing, I smoke bud, but other than that, I've never used anything else. And that came from him because he had a sister and a brother that were using crack. And one day, I knew about his sister, but I didn't know about his brother. He brought his brother over to my apartment, and we hung out, and we smoked a little bud or whatever. But when they left, I was cleaning up, and the paring knife was missing out of my knife block in the kitchen. So I was like, why would somebody take a paring knife? Long story short, I found out through one of his friends that his brother also smoked crack. And so I kind of scolded Jay. I told him, I said, don't bring your brother over to my house ever again, because if he steals a knife, there's no telling what else he would steal. So that's just a couple of lies that he told on me. He just went out of his way from that point on when I talked about him. And he was going behind my back trying to make me look small and make himself look big. And again, even though he was older than me, I had more than he did. And I had no business messing with this guy, but the sex was good. And I kept knocking on his door, and he kept knocking on my door. And this went on for 11 years. But you know what the Bible says about lust. And look at me now. Now, I'm battling a lot of health issues because this guy was dishonest. Be careful out there, guys. I'm telling you.